You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. Today we have a surprise guest, and she's delicious. Sarah Ruden. She's an American writer, a classics scholar, and a translator. Her publications include poetry, essays, and the popularization of biblical theology and religious criticism and interpretation. She holds a master's degree from the Johns Hopkins Writing Seminars and a doctorate in classical theology from Harvard. In addition to her academic appointments, she worked as a medical editor, a contributor to American periodicals, and a stringer for a South African investigative magazine. She became an activist Quaker during her 10 years spent in post-apartheid South Africa, where she was a tutor for the South African Education and Environment Project, and she lectured in classics at the University of Cape Town. In 2016, she was awarded a Whiting Creative Nonfiction grant to complete her translation of the Confessions of Augustine. An advocate for the popularization of ancient texts, she's been a visiting scholar at the University of Pennsylvania since 2018. In 2010, she was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship to fund her translation of the Orestia by Aeschylus, and her translation of the Gospel was funded in part by Robert B. Silver's grant for work in progress in 2019. Her new book examines the tenacity of a toxic myth that has long prospered in American politics, playing a particularly vicious role in the development of totalitarianism today and in the past. In the West, the dangerous belief this is that women having reproductive freedom somehow poses a threat to, quote, traditional values. She writes with scathing humor and unflinching honesty, and she lays bare how the doctrines of control over women were invented and propagated. And I will return with Sarah Ruden in just a moment, right after this brief message. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Sarah, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and delighted to be here.
Well, a feminist classicist. Oh, I've died and gone to heaven. It is unusual because many of the authors who are on this program, and they are usually authors, but not inevitably, but they are also activists, which you are. But they are not classicists. They are not. It's a fairly rare and rarefied discipline. It shouldn't be, I think, but it is. And because I'm in my other lives a poet and a literary person, I get very excited when I encounter an actual classicist who's a feminist and the reverse. Oh wow, it's just heaven. So your work has been amazing. And in this book, in Reproductive Wrongs, a short history of bad ideas about women, which is an absolutely funny, witty, lovely, and very informative book. You take on hinge points in history, from Juvenal and Ovid on down through the contemporary movement against abortion. But the beautiful thing I think that you do is that each time you cite a classic example and explain how they did their dirty work, you network it with something that is contemporary today. And I find that absolutely, I have not encountered that in historic work. People either do history or they do now, but they don't link them up together. So I congratulate you on that.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, I did find in a rather creepy way, um, that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
And, what I was tracing in part in the book is a particular neurotic, persecutory male affect,
Mm.
um, just conceiving this terrible hostility toward women and this a seeming jealousy toward, their, unique power as procreators,
Hmm.
nurturers. And, um, yeah, there was,
It's
things.
as women that we are that we're hunted down in effect.
Yes, exactly. And, there just seems to be a male hypersensitivity to, the power women have in bearing children and nursing them.
Yeah, I think it's left over from the cave days when for some strange reason women could make some of the people could make people inside their bodies and others couldn't. And nobody
Mhm.
knew why. And I
Yes.
think, it's kind of a strange, bizarre, sick heritage from those days.
Mhm. And even specific logic has sometimes stayed the same over 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So here's Ovid, and he's writing in the late 1st century BC,
Mm.
and he writes the first anti-abortion propaganda. There are 2 poems, very ugly. He's haranguing his girlfriend, who's had an abortion, and her life is in danger because abortions were butchery back then.
Yeah.
And all he can do is yell at her and scold her. And seems to be the first author who put abortion on some
Excuse
uh,
me.
universal scale of destructiveness. It became the super crime in his conception, but it remained that um, for right up to now. In fact,
Yes.
um, it's something, um, because women have this extraordinary power in giving birth. They also supposedly have an extraordinary criminality in not wanting to give birth.
Yes, it manages to be both at the same time, which is really confusing to women, you know. I mean, they're just trying to live and be and
Mhm.
yeah.
Huh? Yeah, there's this extraordinary inability to just let women alone.
Yeah.
And Ovid um, makes out that abortion is a crime that strikes the universe off its axis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a crime so bad that if certain heroines of myth had committed this crime,
Mhm.
then we wouldn't have the gods and the demigods that we needed to create history. And
Right.
the Roman Empire would not reach its destiny of ruling the world.
Right. Yeah, yeah, no, we have
Uh,
all this I wish we had even a scintilla of that power.
right, yes. And there's a parallel argument in anti-abortion propaganda right now. You see it all the time. What if Mary had aborted Jesus?
Oh, I know, I know, I know.
Yes. It's basically the same argument.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah. Your style is very funny and I find very witty. Mm, Titled one chapter "Pregnant and Foot Washing in the Kitchen," and the titles are one "Dawn of the Dicks." That's another one that's very very much toward the beginning. And Hammered. What you do with the Malleus Maleficarum filled my heart with joy. I mean, actually, it filled my heart with horror because of the Malleus Maleficarum, which is the witch's hammer, which two Dominican monks, Kramer and Spengler, um, put together during the Middle Ages. These two Dominican monks who really, really hated women. And and who produced the Witch's Hammer, which was the guidebook, in a sense, for finding and identifying women as witches or worshippers of the old religion or midwives or teachers or people could read. Um, all these evils that women obviously did and which were responsible for as up to, some say, 9 million uh, burnings of women, and the humbler number is 3. And we're talking only about 3, an era of about 3 different witch purges in Europe, primarily but not exclusively at all in Germany. So you take them apart piece by piece, the witch's hammer, in a chapter called Hammered, aptly. A monk off his head about women's bodies, because they really are. They are the different definition of hysterical. Talk a little bit about the hammer.
Well, the hammer was the primary and most important handbook for persecuting witches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a guide about the causes of witchcraft, and it's also a persecution manual. It's supposed to be leading you through the legal processes of um, trying witches and executing them. But um, the methodology, if you can even call it that, simply shatters the law as it existed then.
Yeah.
And the law in this time and place was pretty sophisticated, and high medieval Germany was thriving commercially. Um, it had universities, learning was
Yeah.
pretty widely propagated, and so they had a working legal system of some solidity. But these 2 monks came on the scene, uh, Kramer in particular, and they simply exploded the legal system as it was, a- as it pertained to women. Kramer was pretty frank about it. He says trials are a waste of time. What you have to do is arrest women as quickly as possible, and round them up.
And get
His
them
his
dead.
method was to, yeah, take large groups into custody
Mm-hmm.
and deny them any kind of due process. There was basic due process back then. These women were not to get any. They were to be interrogated and tortured
Right.
until they confessed. They were going to have no way out, even if they endured the torture.
Yeah, my favorite is the trussing of a woman hand and foot and throwing her into water, or river or whatever, and then if she sank, that was signs that she clearly was if she floated, she was a witch, and if she sank, well, she was dead. you
Yeah,
know it was incredible. It was the tortures and the devised sadism takes your breath away.
right. Yeah. What I'm emphasizing in my chapter is something really important about the motivation and the background of these persecutions, and also their ideology and their mechanics. Um, Kramer and his fellow witch hunters were convinced that women's main crime as witches was reproductive,
Mm-hmm.
or it was around reproduction. So women were mating with demons, they were giving birth to the devil's army,
Mm-hmm.
and this army was going to win in the apocalypse if people didn't, kill enough witches quickly enough.
Yeah.
And women would uh, they would have abortions, and they would commit infanticide. So if they had any human children, they would do away with them. because they were obeying Satan.
Right.
They would make men impotent. Um, they were Women were basically setting up an industrial breeding establishment for in the interest of Satan, and this is why midwives were so interesting
Yeah.
to the witch hunters. A lot of midwives, as well as young fertile women, were caught up in these persecutions. They-
Horribly so. Yeah.
yeah. So the idea was that women's reproductive capacity was too important to leave to women and couples and families and to privacy. It had to be a state concern and a church concern.
Yeah.
Um, Privacy had to be thrown to the dogs. Um, you could listen to any vicious rumor. You could encourage women. You could encourage spying on neighbors and on enemies. And
And
you,
with financial gain too. So,
for financial gain too, yeah. Um, you could create a whole reign of terror against women and any effort they made to have a peaceful, private, um, reproductive life.
mm,
Oh,
this is the,
horrible. Yeah.
yeah, it is extraordinary because it gets replaced era by era with a new form of the same thing.
Mm,
When you get into eugenics at the end of it, and you say, I think that chapter is called, oh yeah, this looks oddly familiar. It's the one about Stopes and eugenics, and um, but earlier it is the uh, assumption that women are all powerful, and poor dear little men have just trying to survive and be godly. And Christianity comes in like a great lumbering dragon, I must say,
mm,
and never departs. And of course we're seeing a revival of it today, even. Um, but then you get it replaced again and again and again by some new form of the same thing, you know. And it's always about fear and trembling and sickness unto death of women's reproductive capacity, you know.
mhm. Yeah. You know, even Charles Dickens, who
Yes, you take on quite wonderfully.
well, he was in his active life, quite a sincere humanitarian. He was
Mhm.
into a lot of charities, and um, he comes across in his novels as the great champion of the orphan, of the poor, of the exploited. Um, but in a certain connection, Dickens is the enemy of reproductive freedom.
Because he just has women dropping children all over the place.
Yes. Well, he has two ideas which have been really, really destructive, and one particular idea has played into the modern anti-abortion movement. One idea is that um, large families are a medicine for social ills
Yeah.
among the very
The
poor.
happy poor. And
The happy poor. What will make them happier is to have marry really young and have lots and lots of children. And
yeah,
if you stop them from doing that, if you um, tell them that, yeah, maybe think about this, then you are, as bad as a exploitative industrialist. You are
yeah,
as
yeah,
bad, as a heartless nobleman and exploiting his peasants. They must marry young, or horrible, horrible things will result. Suicide, alcoholism, um, death by starvation and homelessness. It's it's
It's the
just
little
crazy.
Nell. It's
Yeah.
the little Nell scenario, kind of. I mean, uh, we are weeping for them and so sorry for them, but at the same time, they are definitely a different class, a different sex, a different, as different as they can be made against us, so that we are special.
Yeah, we are special.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, the other really, destructive idea that he imposed on modern society, and he really was popular enough to impose any idea he wanted. He
yeah,
was
he was
a
huge.
mega celebrity writer. This idea, the second idea, is that adoption,
Mm,
fostering are magical.
yeah,
There's no such thing as an unwanted child, and that's exactly what hardline anti-abortion
yeah.
campaigners say. There's no such thing as an unwanted child, and
Ah,
we can ignore the reality in that there are an awfully lot of unwanted children. There are tens of thousands of children, who are in foster care and will never have parents. Um,
oh, of course.
um, especially disabled children,
Yeah,
especially minority children.
yeah,
And it's God's will that they be born, that they be conceived, that they be born. And on the side, there's a little industry in producing healthy white children for evangelical and Catholic families
mhm,
who are suffering from infertility or
mhm.
who just want a lot of children. Um, so this idea of the magical child in need, the child in need is not someone um, whom we should think about and for whose sake we should,
Change the system.
change the system and at the very least allow family planning, allow people to make decisions about whether or not they can have a child.
You think?
Yeah, you think. Um, but no, it's God's will, that um, these children come into the world, and if they come into the world for nothing but to suffer and to die, then we just don't understand God's will, and
That's
or how
right.
dare we question God's will?
Well,
And
God's won't.
God's won't, yeah, it is very much. I love that term. It's God's won't. God, if you are forced to have a child,
Ah,
um, you feel completely unable to raise and to nurture. And that child is thrown into the system,
it's a
uh,
generational trauma.
and it's a generational trauma.
It goes on at least 3 or 4 generations. We
Yeah,
know this now.
yeah, yeah. We represent God's will in telling you that this is the way things should be. You should suffer. Your
Yeah,
children should suffer.
yeah,
Um, and we know why this is ultimately the best thing that could happen.
yeah.
It's
Aren't
disgusting.
you lucky? Yeah.
It's horrifying.
What tell me now, Sarah, I mean, the women's movement, certainly in the States, has had a very energetic 30 or 40 years now, and has fallen on difficult times under Trump. And we're we're doing, friends ask me, what are you doing about this? And I say everything, because we are literally trying everything. And I think that we're beginning to turn the ship around in the deep waters. But it's very scary, and it's scary also because of what's happening to the planet. The assumption has been that this is all the fantasy of, or the wisdom of, you depending on your perspective, a group of progressive women who, whether they were very young in the 60s and 70s, or whether they're older now, or whether they're younger now, have been ready to make change and are activist and so forth and so on. It is not the usual assumption that academics, and in particular classicists, are raging, wonderful feminists. What's been the reaction to your work? I mean, it's so valuable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I have heard wonderful things so far. People are very supportive. They're very excited about the book. And one thing that I think is really positive, and this doesn't have to do with me, This is a general trend, and I think a very useful one. Women are getting angry.
Oh, yeah.
It is
Oh,
it is a beautiful thing to see. Um, I recommend a blog called Abortion Every Day
oh,
by
terrific.
Jessica Valenti.
Oh, yes, of course.
Wonderful blog. She's a very diligent collector of the latest news about the anti-abortion movement.
Yes, she is.
Yes. There are fantastic charities like if slash when slash how. And that's a group of lawyers, and they do very basic things in the face of what's becoming a reign of terror
Mhm,
on the part of the anti-family planning coalition. And if when how does things like provide bail money
mhm,
because um, more and more of it is needed. Higher bails are being demanded. More and more women are being arrested for pregnancy crimes. It's
yeah.
a new phenomenon. Um, yeah, so a favorite charity of mine is MSI, and they are active mainly in the developing world. MSI Reproductive Choices,
Mhm.
and I got conscientized. I got fired up myself a number of years ago because I spent almost a decade in Africa.
I noticed that in your bio, yes, in South Africa.
And my role models for getting angry are the African girls
Yeah.
growing up in the informal townships around Cape Town. I did a little volunteer teaching there just for a number of months, but I will never forget the inspiration that I derived from teaching these girls. Um,
Were you in, what is it now? Can't remember. Is it,
South Africa.
no, but I mean, Google it too. Uh,
Well, I think I spent a little time in Guguletu.
Google
Uh,
it too, that's it.
yeah, there's several of these townships around
Huge.
Cape Town. Yeah, I can't remember which ones particularly I was working in. Um,
But yes, the women are fierce and unstoppable.
yeah, um, one of my students wrote a poem. You'll love this because you're a poet. She wrote a poem to her right hand.
Mm,
She
okay.
had had a knife fight with her mother,
Mm,
and she got a big wound in her hand, and it got infected. So she was panicking. And in the townships, it's very difficult to get
of
medical
course.
care. So she hadn't had any disinfectant for this wound. She didn't know what she was going to do about it, and she thought that the infection would take hold and she would lose her hand. So she wrote her hand a poem
Oh,
about all of the amazing things that it would do for her if she survived.
oh,
It was a love poem to her hand and its possibilities.
mm,
And she went on to go to university. She got a professional job after that, so she's been
oh,
able to be a leader. To be an example to younger women. But what these women dealt with, these young women, every day just to go to school.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and there are school fees as well.
there were at the time, yeah, and you had to get a uniform somewhere,
That's right.
and but more concerning, the route to school would be really fraught. Boys your age would be harassing
Hmm.
you, bullying you, grabbing you.
Yeah,
Um, Older men would be trying to rape you.
yeah,
The path to the local library, and there was one, was a no-go area.
yeah.
Because one of my students had seen a woman's corpse there. The woman had been
Mm.
raped and mutilated and left there.
Yeah, there were cases of necklacing as well, where
Right.
where men put tires around women's necks, and to set them on fire because they were witches. I mean, because
Mm,
it's ironic, but we have the same trope.
mhm.
Uh, it's not just ironic either.
But
I mean, I it seems to me that this is a salvo, your book, into the ranks of the anti-intellectual, anti um, intelligent. I'm sorry if it's bigoted of me, but it's true. It's the know nothings who propagate. Um, there's a museum of the Bible a few blocks from the White House
Mm.
that the evangelicals have now. Uh, and I've been doing a lot on that in this program, but that you can't do enough because they are continually producing more. And I just think that this is a really important intellectual, intelligent work um, that fills the gap where we have, and I'm not complaining that we have, but we have often just shouted. Um, you know, uh, it's a good thing to do, to shout and to picket and to demonstrate, and all of that is incredibly valuable and shows. It shows up on the public report, as it were. But this fills a real hole, I think, and I would love to see it widely appreciated and distributed. And I'm very glad that it's in paperback as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm so very encouraged um to be talking to you, and I hope my book um does what I mean it to do. I hope that it gets people really angry and um
Oh, yeah.
moves them to action.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Jessica Valenti on her um on her blog, she was interviewing a couple of people who
Mhm.
were activists and who are, buying up abortion pills and preparing for the time when they might be
Yeah.
outlawed countrywide. Um, she was interviewing these women. I was just so impressed by what they said.
Yeah.
They said, "Screw the law."
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, women on waves, women on, the women who use the mails and use the uh um uh but there's a whole smuggling operation that we're beginning to put into operation now that we didn't used to have. I mean, and then we did, but if you go back far enough, we go back to the Janes,
mm,
so we're back doing that again for a while.
yeah. See, I hope that my book um, will push people to the realization that if you just talk and argue um,
Mm.
with people who are absolutely determined to outlaw even condoms.
Yeah.
My research says that yes, they are. They want to outlaw even condoms. If you persist in just talking to them and arguing with them and treating them as reasonable, you're going to play into their hands and waste your time, and you're going to end up in total despair and helplessness.
Yeah.
Um, I hope my book helps people realize that there is no reason out there to address. Um, so you might as well just get busy and get active in your opposition to what they want to do.
Mhm.
And I say in the book, you ought to know what they say, what they write, because we're going to be living it.
Yeah.
Unless we realize its full scope um, and act against it, we are going to be living it.
Yeah. Well, I think Margaret Atwood, did with Handmaid's Tale, um, a lot of consciousness raising, and got in under the radar,
Mm.
and so that people realized more than they had how imminent this was. But it's a lot of work to be done, and I tell you, Sarah, I never thought that when I was in my 80s, this is how I'd spend my 80s. I thought by now, surely by now, because I'm a child of the 60s, and I thought we would have pulled it off, but I just didn't see this one coming.
Mm.
But you are part of it, and that is a great joy. And I will look forward very much to the book on Sappho. Uh,
Thank you.
oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And to other work by you, which I see is all in the on the book page, on the by the author's page, which is very rich, uh, and Augustine, and I mean, it's just it's quite a body of work.
Yeah. I want to get people feeling, cheerful and energetic, about the fight ahead. It's going to be a long, hard fight.
Hmm.
But my African girls, somebody got in their way, they would smile and laugh.
Hmm.
Um, and their attitude was, um, underestimate me. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I I love that saying because that was their attitude all day.
It's wonderful. Yes, yes, and
Yeah,
they just roll right over. I
right.
mean, it's yeah. There's a real I don't know, a territorial joy in despite everything that has happened in that benighted land. And they keep on keeping on. They are just
Mm,
fantastic.
mm, mm.
I mean, I cherished my time in South Africa, and
Ah,
which was not as long as yours at all, which was about only about 3 weeks.
uh-huh.
Um,
Where were you there?
I was there because of a an initiative that was put together in the States on a comparison of racism and sexism. Well,
Mm,
it was going to be on just racism until I came along. Um, on racism in three societies: the United States, colonial America, um, and Brazil, and South Africa.
mhm.
And to my absolute horror, I discovered at the very first meeting that it was all gentlemen and me. Well, that,
Really?
yeah, that you may have, and they were all very eminent gentlemen. I mean, they were all scholars, they were all good people, they were all perfectly nice people. But it had occurred to absolutely no one, that it was a little strange that more than half the population on the planet was represented by one woman,
Mm,
and that B, the the approach that I was going to take would be a very personal approach, and it would be a storytelling approach. So I told stories about all three countries. But the most important thing was that nobody had ever addressed the issue of, for example, in the United States, the quadroon, um, the miscegenation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, rape. No one had ever, in examining racism in those three societies, colonial America and Brazil and South Africa, had
mm,
ever addressed the issue of rape in all of its forms. So I did that.
mm.
And that was a busy 3 weeks, I tell you. But the
Yeah,
women were fantastic. The women were amazing. And it was at that point, South Africa had the highest rape rate in the world.
yeah,
I don't know if they still do, but it was pretty awful, pretty high.
yeah, yeah. I, knew I'm a Quaker, and, some of the Quakers that I knew, were doctors, nurses,
Hmm.
and there were many activists because they had been fighting apartheid for decades
Of course.
by the time I got there. Um, and something very troubling emerged about left-wing movements.
Hmm.
Um, and it just it really burned my briefs, how quickly men would get control of a movement and would be, even though they call themselves liberators, they would be oppressing women
Oh, yeah.
as badly or worse as they had been oppressed. And a Quaker nurse, I heard from her just recently, and think whom I knew out there was just really incensed about the treatment of women by the far left.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's the story of my life. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, um, and she had a case, for example, that she found infuriating. Um, a woman she was diagnosed with AIDS, and when that happened, her husband threw her out of the house.
Hmm.
Then he was diagnosed as AIDS, and he had given her AIDS, of course.
Yeah.
She just turned up with symptoms earlier. Um, so he took her back into the house to nurse him.
Oh, that was big of him.
That was really big of him. And she was really angry about this. And she shared this, with a left-wing group she was a member of. And they scolded her,
Mm.
and they put her down, and they didn't want this kind of thing to be talked about at all.
Mm.
Because this was a cultural thing, this was a privileged cultural thing
Of course, it's
among
always.
Africans. And if a white man did that, then that would be horrible, and we would go after him. But no, 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 you must not even talk about it. And yeah, that really annoyed me too.
Well, it's a theory based on the fact that men suffer from racism as well. So therefore, if men suffer from something, it must be important.
Yeah,
But if only women suffer from it, well, the hell with it. I mean, that's not
yeah,
important.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I back in I think 69, I wrote a piece called Goodbye to All That, in which I said goodbye to the left. Um,
Oh, I think I've read that.
oh, well, there
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go. And
It's a classic, in fact.
thank you. I just blew out my fuses. I mean, I just went ballistic, and sat down and wrote it. And yeah, it became very well known. But
Mhm.
but and it still is true to this day. It's less true now because women, and in a very large part women of color, in this country at least, have um, taken over leadership of a great many uh, supposed leftist causes and brought their feminism with them.
Mm,
So it transforms the way it operates. It transforms. I mean, it's the whole thing is transformative.
mm,
Um, but it's of which a very important part I would like to see um, your book being, reproductive wrongs. I'm a great fan of it now, extremely. Thank you, Sarah, for being
oh,
with us
thank
today.
you, thank you.
It's
I want to thank you for your lifetime work for women.
oh, well, it's been interesting. God knows. It's been interesting, and I'm grateful to women for it. I mean, I've been all over the world um, and learned from women all over the world, and we still have so much work to do. I can't believe it. It's like women's work is, never done,
Mhm.
but but we'll do it. At
We'll
least we'll
do
do
it.
it to the extent that we can, and that's the most that we can ask of ourselves and each other. That is
Yeah.
a good thing. And we now have classicists on our side. Wow. Watch
Wow.
out. Watch out,
Well,
boys.
I really feel like a chump because I wrote the book, or I got the idea for the book in a fit of really painful frustration. Because, I
Good.
saw the way, just
That's good.
from 2016, I saw the way the country was going. I wanted to do something, but what's my skill set? Latin, Greek, um, Hebrew.
You've done it, honey. You're
And
doing it.
so yeah, I said, I'm gonna write this book or die. I'm gonna write something that's relevant to the struggle we're in right now.
You have done precisely that. And by linking the ancient with the contemporary, you've proved your point. The book is through composed. I mean, it It is of a piece, and it's a very valuable piece, and I hope it's widely read, and I hope it's celebrated as much as it should be. And I'm looking forward to the book about Sappho. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
We have to take a short break here, but I'll return in just a moment with some enraged words. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
If this be treason, those are fighting words. Hey, folks. I find myself wondering more often these days whether Trump isn't finally losing it completely. I don't mean his normal psychotic state or his ignorance or the profundity of his sexism and racism and xenophobia and every ism you can name. I mean his more and more going off script and off teleprompter to hold forth on everything from the Venezuelan oil tankers he's bombing to his ballroom, from how he wants more Norwegian immigrants to his gold and platinum cards with which wealthy people can callously purchase U.S. citizenship, from openly using profanities in public to sleeping during cabinet meetings. Hey there, Sleepy Joe. No apologies. Let them eat cake and so forth and so on ad nauseum. Even his fellow Republicans, except for the hardest core immediately surrounding him, are gradually expressing concern. He's quite mad, you know, far worse than King George III and his porphyry. Stark, craving, bonkers, bananas, woohoo, dribble, 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 crazy. The proof of this, of course, lies in his latest prediction that he will have to find anyone accusing him of being, in the slightest bit, imperfect or unwell, be immediately charged with treason. Like this? Hello. And here's a real and outrageous news note for you. Right before Thanksgiving, Trump's administration declared that nursing, the backbone of women's professional labor, care, and economic survival, is unprofessional. Yes, it's no longer a profession. And with that one change in the classification, they stripped students in advanced nursing programs of access to Department of Education funding. That includes programs training nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, clinical nurse specialists, nurse anesthetists, the advanced practice roles that keep rural, poor, and underserved communities alive. Every age of a woman's life will be affected. If you're young, you're dreaming of entering a profession that's based on skill, compassion, and service, the door may now be slammed shut, because the federal government will no longer help you get there with student loans. If you're a woman in midlife, caring for aging parents or relatives, you know that nursing homes cost over $110,000 a year. But Trump's Medicaid cuts in that big, beautiful bill jeopardize your ability to get care for the people you love, and the nursing workforce needed to provide that care. If you're already elderly, standing at the threshold of your own need for care, the consequences are even more chilling. Less Medicaid funds for nursing homes, fewer nurses trained, fewer options available, more families financially devastated. So Trump and his minions will have to go without skilled nursing care for their lethal insanities, while Florence Nightingale, who formally created the profession, and Clara Barton, who founded the Red Cross during the Civil War, spin in their graves. It's barely believable. Nursing has traditionally been so much a woman's profession that it is one of the very few that for decades, in fact, still today, it requires the word male preceding it to clarify that some men do the job too. But not that many. And you know why? Because it's too damned hard. And that's our show for this week. We'll be off on a short hiatus over the holidays and see you in the new year, where we will celebrate it, and we will celebrate the great state of Indiana, ruby red though it may be, because all of the Republicans in the Senate and the House in the state voted against redistricting despite Trump's attempts to get them to do otherwise with great pressure. Bravo. Bravo, Republicans in Indiana. You can follow me on social media at The Robin Morgan. You can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net, and you can find my new novel, Parallax, and my just-out new book of poems, Harvesting Darkness, wherever books are sold. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer, as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer for this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us next time on Women's Media Center Live.